October is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I'm continuing part 6 of this book, Why Does He Do That? By Lundy Bancroft. Chapter 3, The Abusive Mentality. What we will do now is attempt to form a coherent picture of how an abusive man thinks. Chronic mistreatment gets people to doubt themselves. So one of the things that Lundy Bancroft tries to do is, when he works with an abused woman, is to get her to trust in herself again, to rely on her own perceptions, to listen to her own internal voices, and above all else, what an abused woman needs is support and encouragement to hold on to your own truth. Your abusive partner wants to deny your experience by denying the abuse. He wants to pluck your view of reality out of your head and replace it with his. When someone has invaded your identity this way enough times, over weeks, months, years, decades, you naturally start to lose your balance, but can find your way back to center. We will now zero in on the roots of his steamrolling style. Reality number 1. He is controlling. Here, he talks about his client Glenn, who arrived angry and agitated for his group session one night. This is what his client said. Harriet started yelling at me on Friday afternoon and told me she's going to move out soon. Then she left the whole weekend and took my 2-year-old son with her. She really hurt me. So I decided to hurt her too. And I wanted to go after something that was really important to her, to show her what it's like. She had been working for a week on this college paper that she had put a lot of hours into and was going to hand it in on Monday. She left it sitting out right on top of her dresser, just asking for it. So I tore it up into little pieces. Then I ripped up a bunch of pictures of the 3 of us and left it in a nice pile on the bed for her to come home to. I think she learned something from it. Glenn was remarkably honest about his thought process and his motives, and probably felt really justified. He believed it was his right to control his partner's actions, and he expected his word to be the last word, and he did not accept defiance. He considered his right to punish Harriet in the most severe way he could think of if she took steps to recover ownership of her own life. And even talk about how he had allowed her various freedoms while they were together, as if he were her parent, and defended his right to remove her privileges when he thought the time had come. Control comes in many different forms, and it is really a spectrum, but most of his clients stake out specific turf to control rather than try to run everything. Here are the spheres of control, and it generally falls into one of the 3 central spheres. A. Arguments and decision making. An intimate relationship involves a steady flow of decisions to be made, conflicting needs to negotiate, tastes and desires to balance. So for example, who is going to clean up the mess in the kitchen? How much time should we spend alone versus together? How much time with friends, etc, etc. The mindset an abuser brings to these choices and tensions can make him impossible to get along with. Consider how challenging it is to negotiate or compromise with a man who operates on the following tenets, whether or not he says them out. And most of the time, these are not said out loud, and an abused woman kind of have to stumble upon these unspoken rules by making mistakes and then get an explosion in her face, and she learns, oh, okay, this is a rule I didn't know existed. Okay, noted. And then the rules stack up. So some of these rules are: an argument should only last as long as my patience does. Once I've had enough, the discussion is over and it's time for you to shut up. Number 2, if the issue we're struggling over is important to me, I should get what I want. If you don't back off, you're wronging me. Number 3, I know what's best for you and for our relationship. If you continue to disagree with me after I've made it clear which path is the right one, you're acting stupid. Number 4, if my control and authority seems to be slipping, I have the right to take steps to re-establish the rule of my will, including abuse if necessary. The last item on this list is the one that most distinguishes the abuser from other people, because we may slip into having feelings like, from 1 to 3 as I've read, but the abuser gives himself permission to take action on the basis of his beliefs. With him, the foregoing statements aren't feelings, they're closely held convictions. The second sphere of control is personal freedom. An abusive man considers it his right to control where his partner goes and with whom she associates, what she wears, and when she needs to be back home. He therefore feels he should be grateful for any freedoms that he does choose to grant her. He expects his partner to give him a medal for his generosity, not to criticize him for his oppressiveness. Sometimes this control is exercised through wearing the woman down with constant low-level complaints rather than through yelling or barking. So he may not outright say, you can't go there, you can't see this person or that person. He will just make the experience so unpleasant and gives you problems that you yourself would choose not to go out to save yourself from the trouble. This is highly distorted thinking. The third sphere of control is parenting. If the couple has children, the abusive man typically considers himself the authority on parenting, even if he contributes little to the actual work of looking after them. He sees himself as a wise and benevolent head coach who watches passively from the sidelines during the easy times, but steps in with the correct approach when his partner isn't handling the children properly. His arrogance about the superiority of his parenting judgment may be matched only by how little he truly understands or pays attention to children's needs. No matter how good a mother his partner is, he thinks she needs to learn from him, not the other way around. To illustrate this point of how an abusive man claims that his control is in his partner's best interest, this is the story of his client Vinny. Olga and I were driving in a really bad neighborhood. We were arguing and she got crazy the way that she does and started trying to get out of the car. It was dark and was the kind of place that anything could happen to her. I told her to stay in the car, that she wasn't getting out in a place like this, but she kept trying to push the door open. I couldn't get her to stop, so I finally had to slap her in the arm, and unfortunately, she hit her head against the window. But at least that got her to settle down and stay in the car. Does Vinny really believe that he is abusing his partner for her own good? Yes and no. To some extent he does, because he has convinced himself. But his real motivation is plain to see. Olga wanted to get out of the car in order to escape Vinny's control, and he wants to make sure she can't. Unfortunately, an abuser can sometimes succeed at convincing people that his partner is so irrational and out of control that her judgment is so poor that she has to be saved from herself. Never believe a man's claim that he has to harm his partner in order to protect her. Only abusers think this way. One of the key reminders Lundy gives his abuser clients is this: your problem is not that you lose control of yourself, it's that you take control of your partner. In order to change, you don't need to gain control over yourself, you need to let go of control of her.